You're sailing across the open ocean when out of the morning fog, a massive cargo ship drifts into view. Its engines are silent, its deck is empty. You call out, but there's no answer. The only sound is the slap of waves against rusted steel. You climb aboard and realize every single crew member is gone. No distress signal, no signs of a struggle, just one thing, something so terrifying it's been haunting anyone who's ever set foot on this ship since. What happened on the MV Alta is not just a mystery. It's the kind of thing that sticks in your head at night, long after you've turned out the lights. Now, before you write this off as just another ghost ship story, you should know this happened in real life. The kind of thing the Coast Guard themselves still scratch their heads over. And the secret, it's not a cheap horror movie twist. It's something that ties into real human fear, the fear of vanishing without a trace. In late 2018, the MV Alta, a cargo ship built back in the 70s, was limping through the Atlantic Ocean. She was already an old vessel, the kind of ship you'd expect to see retired, not making transoceanic trips. But she was out there, halfway between the US and Europe, when she broke down. Completely dead in the water, the crew radioed for help, but the nearest ships were days away. Weeks passed. Food and fuel were running out, the kind of situation where morale sinks faster than the boat you're on. Then a hurricane formed, one of the nastiest storms of the season. Rescue attempts were abandoned. It seemed like the Alta was doomed. And then she disappeared. Nobody knew if she sank. Nobody knew if the crew made it. It was like she'd been swallowed by the ocean. Months went by and the Alta was forgotten. Another unlucky freighter in the long list of ships claimed by the Atlantic. Except she wasn't gone. Almost a year later, in 2019, the British Royal Navy spotted something strange while crossing open water. A massive cargo ship, drifting aimlessly. When they got closer, they saw the name and V Alta. She was completely deserted. Not a single person on board. No signs of life, no signs of violence either. Just abandoned. Now here's where it gets weird. Most ships like this don't survive long. Abandoned vessels usually sink, get scrapped, or are towed away. But somehow, the Alta survived storms, waves, and months of drifting with no crew. She became the ocean's wandering ghost, spotted in random places thousands of miles apart. Fast forward to February 2020. A storm slammed into the southern coast of Ireland. A massive wall of wind and water that tossed anything in its path like toys. When the storm cleared, locals walked along the cliffs and saw something jaw-dropping. The MV Alta had crashed onshore. Imagine walking along the coast and seeing this huge, rusting cargo ship just sitting there like it dropped out of the sky. The Irish Coast Guard boarded her to investigate. What they found didn't answer any questions. It only made things creepier. Inside, there was no sign of the crew. No logbook explaining what happened. No personal belongings. The galley had some scattered canned food. The bunks were bare, but there was one thing the ship felt wrong. Every person who's been on it says the same thing. It's like the air is heavier, like something happened there you're not supposed to know about. So, what really happened? Here's where the theories start. Some believe the crew was rescued back in 2018, but the details were covered up. Maybe the company didn't want to admit the ship was in bad shape. Maybe there was something illegal on board. Smuggling, trafficking, you name it. And someone wanted that swept under the rug. Others think the ship was cursed from the start. Not in a sea monster way, but in a bad luck, wrong place, wrong time way. The kind of ship sailors whisper about in bars, saying, don't sign on to her, she doesn't come back. And then there's the most chilling theory, that the crew abandoned ship somewhere out in the open ocean, not because she was sinking, but because something was on board they couldn't handle. Something human, or not. We might never get an answer. The crew is gone, and if they're out there somewhere, they've stayed completely silent. But the MV Alta is still sitting in Ireland right now, slowly rotting away, her massive hull leaning against the rocks like a stranded whale. And every year, more people sneak on board looking for answers and leave with more questions. Here's the thing, we like to think in 2025, with all our tech, all our satellites, all our constant online tracking, that we can't just lose an entire ship. But the ocean? The ocean doesn't care about your Wi-Fi or your GPS. Out there, you're a speck that can vanish. And maybe that's the real horror here. Not ghosts, not curses, but the fact that the sea still has the power to make us disappear without a trace. So if you were on that rescue crew, or if you were one of the sailors who left the MV Alta behind, I'm talking to you. What happened out there? Why did you leave her? And what's the thing you're not telling us? Busu. Because until someone talks, the MV Alta's secret stays locked in that rusting hull, waiting for the next storm to drag her back out to sea. And hey, if you think this is just one creepy coincidence, stick around. There are dozens more real-life ghost ship stories that are even stranger than this. Stories where whole cruise liners were found with hot meals still on the table, fishing boats drifting into harbors with no one at the wheel, tankers carrying millions of dollars worth of cargo with no crew to claim it. I'll tell you right now, these aren't urban legends. They happened. They're documented, and some of them, they make the MV Alta look like a bedtime story. So if you want to keep going down the rabbit hole with me, smash that like button, because the deeper we go into this, the darker it gets. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and hit that bell, because when the next ghost ship turns up, I'll be here to tell you why it might be the most terrifying one yet. But just remember something. If you ever see a ship drifting on the horizon and it's quiet, too quiet, maybe don't go aboard. You might not come back.